Hi, my name is Josh Ryan. I did this PowerPoint on Howard Hughes. He was an American aviator, engineer, Hollywood director, and producer, and a great businessman and investor. He grew up in Texas and was into. His father invented a drill bit that could drill down to oil wells, which they couldn't get to anywhere before. Had a patent on that drill and made a company, Hughes Tools, and they became very rich, very wealthy family. And Howard Hughes was about 18 when both of his parents died, and he inherited the business and the family wealth. He wanted nothing to do with the oil drilling business, so he started making movies and producing aircraft. He produced probably around 25 to 30 movies and directed 2, Hell's Angels and The Outlaw, which were Hell's Angels was one of the most expensive films during the time, if not the most expensive, and The Outlaw was a very controversial film with censors because of the way it was a very sexual movie. He also did a lot of investing, and he built up TWA and things like that. Some of the accomplishments he had in aviation was he set the fastest airspeed record in a land plane with the H-1 Silver Bullet. I think it was the first airplane that he really manufactured and had a big part in. And he flew that. He flew most of the aircraft that his company built. He also set the transcontinental airspeed record flying nonstop from Los Angeles to New York, and he became like a national hero. He was in the public eye a lot from making all these movies, flying across the world. He beat Wally Post's record, and designing all these aircraft. His company did a lot of government contracts and building the Spruce Goose, the H-4 Hercules, which was like the biggest seaplane ever built, and still a huge plane to even biggest wooden plane built. They gave it a nickname, the Spruce Goose. It was largely made of birch. It actually did not get produced in time for to be used in the war, and that was a big deal because the government was paying his company and everything. So he also did the H-11 and did some other planes like that. Let's see here. As you can see, like the Hells Angels and building up Trans World Airlines. He also built up Vegas, which I'll talk about later. Some of the crashes he was in, because he test piloted all these aircraft. I think the first crash he was in was during the making of Hell's Angels, and there was a pilot that didn't want to do the stunt that he was directing for. And Howard Hughes said that he would just go do it himself. So he goes and tries to do this maneuver very close to the ground, crashes, and he has a severe concussion to the front of his forehead and damaged a part of his brain that looks at things and says if they look right. So pretty much from there on, he starts getting like OCD. It really just, well, he already had OCD. It really just makes it a lot worse because he always goes back and checks his writings and goes back and checks everything. It makes him very anal. That was the first crash he was in. I think the second crash was in the H-1 Silver Bullet, which he did the land speed record in. And that he crashed in a beet field after flying it for too long, ran out of gas, engine quit, and he hurt his ankle. Um, didn't do what wasn't a big deal. It's a pretty good crash landing, and probably the biggest crash he was in was with the XF-11, which had counter-rotating props, and he flew this around for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, before one of the engines failed, and one of the two props switched its pitch all the way backwards, so he had a back thrust on one and a forward thrust on the other, and he tried to land in a golf course nearby, couldn't make it, and he completely demolished 3 houses. From this crash, they didn't think he was going to live, and he really did. He was in a lot of pain after this crash. This is the crash that changed his entire life. From then on, he was on painkillers because his back and neck were always in pain.